Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, however you have found me. I'm just so thankful that you're here today. I know I've been a little late on my videos these last 2 weeks. I want to thank you for your patience as I'm steering through a very busy sewing season in my life. I sell Celtic-inspired costumes at different events, and my busy season is July, August, September. So I'm halfway through, but my stock is down. So I've just been sewing like there's no tomorrow. Plus, on top of that, I get custom work or alterations or things of that nature. So it gets busy. It gets really busy. So I want to welcome you to week 37. It's called Schedules, or which of the 568 volunteer opportunities should I sign up for, in our book, Queen of the Castle, 52 Weeks of Encouragement for the Uninspired, Domestically Challenged, or Just Plain Tired Homemaker by Lynn Bowen Walker. Well, 30 weeks ago in week 7, I'll try to put a card in. I've not done that yet. It gives me the option when I'm uploading these, but I will put a card in here to week 7, and we address some of this stuff in week 7. It's okay to say no, managing our time as homemakers. And the number one thing is priorities, right? Priorities. Should we still volunteer? Absolutely. But we need to be in prayer, and we need to talk to our spouses and our family even sometimes as to whether that's a good thing or not. It's fall. This is when a lot of my 2 pumpkins in, and I'm telling you, I've got little things here. I'm like, my brain's like, I try to write everything down that I'm going to say, and then like my brain just goes. So behind me, I've got pumpkins. I just love this season. It's an exciting season. It's my favorite time of year. I loved school as a kid. I loved when my kids were going back to school. I was excited for them and their new adventures. And so that's what this is for me. Fall is an adventure time for me. That's my time to really delve into fine-tuning my schedule. Like I said last week, I still have a pretty consistent schedule. I get up around the same time each day. I try to go to bed around the same time each day. I try to have meals around the same time each day because I'm working. And whether it's cleaning my house or sewing or whatever, I'm working. So, and volunteer, right? Because we have volunteer stuff in there. So we're going to talk a little bit about volunteering. And this is a hard one for a lot of people. We struggle with what we have on our shelf, on the different things that we are a part of. What do we choose? And that's where week 7 is important. We're talking about priorities. Number 1, how is your household? Are you able to make sure that your family has meals? There's groceries. Are you able to make sure that the laundry is done, that the house is clean, that your kids' needs are being met, that they're getting to and from school, that they're getting their permission slip signed? Those are so important. Those, as a homemaker, your husband and your children are your number 1 responsibility. Are they being cared for the way your heart knows that they need to be cared for? And then we look into volunteer opportunities. And the number 1 place you should always volunteer year-round in some way, shape, or form is your church. That's my opinion, but if you volunteer for 6 other things and you don't volunteer for your church, there's a problem. Your church needs you. If you don't feel like teaching is your gift, there might be something else there. You might be just that second person in children's ministry to just kind of help corral the kids. Or maybe you can be the check-in person. Or maybe you can gather the supplies. Or maybe you can write the "We Miss You" postcards. Or maybe you can help with cleanup or set up before. There's so many ways. Worship team. I love singing. And to me, I feel so spoiled when I'm on worship team. I just love singing. But even though I'm blessing others by leading them in worship or helping leading them in worship, where is there more need? So I have a tendency to go where the fires are. So so everything else kind of gets put on the side. And one of the things that our pastor found someone else to take care of was our food pantry, and I was willing to continue to do it. It's a very passive volunteer position where I order the groceries from Fred Meyer, and I go in when they're ready, and they load them up in my car, and I take them to the church, and I unload them, and I fill grocery bags so that families in need, can have access to some easy meal options. But a couple stepped up and volunteered to do that, and I'm very thankful for that. So that frees up, something that I was doing once a week or once a month, depending on when my time allowed. So number one, I want to encourage you to find a place in your church that needs help, that needs you, because there are so many places in your church. Secondly, when you are volunteering in that role, you need to think about how that affects your family. If you have to be at church at 8 in the morning, but your family doesn't be there until 10 a.m., you need to make sure that you're communicating with your spouse where you're going to be, how you're going to get there, how the kids need to get there. There needs to be communication. Don't just assume they know that you have to be there at 8 in the morning. Communication is key. And if they're not supportive, that makes it very challenging. So when our children were younger and they weren't driving, one of the things we did was we made sure that we were all volunteering on the same Sunday, so that we all arrived at the same time, and we dispersed and did whatever it was we were going to do, and then afterwards we were all together. So we tried to do that the first Sunday of the month, and that worked very well for us for a long time. Now the kids are adults, they have their own schedules, and they can plan their own things. They have their own vehicles, and they can all drive. So they can plan their own life, and we no longer have to do that. But my husband and I still do try to coordinate our schedules as best as possible, because we still pick up his mom and take her to church. And she needs to be there. She wants to be there, and we want her to be there. So that was the first thing I wanted to share with you, is definitely find a place in your church where you can volunteer. The second thing I want to talk about is where else should you volunteer? And I think that is important to think about a variety of things. What are your children's interests? Can you be a part of, like if they're in scouting? My husband and I were both involved in the scouting for all three of our children. He helped with my son's Cub Scouts and a little bit with the Boy Scouts. And then he continued to help me with our girls as they were in Girl Scouts. So, and I had a Girl Scout troop for 18 years, and my two girls went through that troop until they graduated high school. And so I volunteered there, and then of course with that came other things, and I found at one time where I was just so spread thin that my family was really suffering, and had to find ways to release those things from my list. And so the key was finding someone to replace me. To me that was really important. So you know how it is. Everyone feels like they're too busy, or that's not a talent they have. Well, this is where my painting comes in. So this is I took some Bob Ross painting classes and really loved doing it. It was very stressful because I'm not a painter. I'm a seamstress. I work with fabric, and my cat is down here visiting me, which I had a door on my other sewing room and I don't hear. So I keep my fabric where she can't get to it. So anywho, hi Licky Lou. So anyway, sorry, distractions. So I took these classes and I just really enjoyed them. And this one is my absolute favorite, the one that's behind me. And this one hangs up here in my office on another wall. But I wanted to show you this because I watched a documentary this week as I was sewing, and it made me sad. Some of the things that were addressed in that show, that documentary. But one of the things they shared that was really, really great was, people will say, Amber, you're so talented, that you can sew this and da da da, you're so talented, blah blah blah. This is what Bob Ross said: talent is a pursued interest. And I absolutely agree with that. Absolutely agree with that. I've often told people, which dog do you feed? We all have our own interests. And the only way you'll get better at something is by continuously practicing it. So I love sewing. I love learning. I love teaching about sewing. I love sharing information that I've acquired if it can help someone make their life a little bit easier. And so then people also say, Amber, you're natural. You're a great public speaker, which I watch these videos and I go, oh, I fumble. I say certain things over and over again. I have a tendency to joke a lot, and that's a nervous reaction. I'm very much an introvert with extrovert qualities, and so I can hide that very well. And for me, it's just something needs to get done, and you step up, you do something until someone else does, which isn't always a great thing. But if you don't feel that you're a great teacher, that's fine. But you know what? Pursue that interest and you will become a better teacher. You have to be teachable too. That's the other thing. You can't just assume that doing the same thing over and over again is gonna work. You need to find how to interact with your audience. If you want to be a teacher, you need to find out what interests them and keep going. So there's lots of great pieces of information in here, and I highlighted them years ago because I just loved it. Some advice from Christian speaker and writer Kathy Lipp. Ask these 3 questions before agreeing to a commitment. Number 1, is this commitment in line with my gifts? Number 2, will this help or hurt my family? Will my husband or kids be picking up the pieces of the fallout of this decision? And number 3, am I doing this for my own glory, or will it bring glory to God? Another thing is over here, I love this. The wise woman develops the habit of graciously not committing to a responsibility when she is first approached. An example of responding graciously might be to say, thank you so much for considering me for this opportunity. I would like to spend time praying about this opportunity. Check my calendar and seek the counsel of my husband. May I respond to your invitation by the end of the week? And this comes from Pat Enos and Lisa Tatlock in Becoming a Woman Who Pleases God. So some great pieces in there to think about. But again, I strongly encourage you, start with your church. Where can you volunteer in your church? And then if there's time, if there's availability, if you're able to pick up something else, then do it. I purposely do not volunteer with my sewing abilities. The reason being, sewing is my job. And I know how long it takes to put items together. So volunteering means I'm not getting paid. And if I'm not getting paid, I'm not bringing in the income that's earmarked for what we're doing as a family. So if I pick up a sewing volunteer job, I know now I have a deadline now. Like, let's say I'm sewing for a play and there's 20 costumes I have to make. That could be 2 months worth of work, if not more, depending on how elaborate that is. So that means 2 months or more without a paycheck. So thinking about those things is really important. But I could volunteer at the ticket box. So there we go. So pick and choose what you're going to volunteer for. Pray about it. Again, I love those 3 questions. Well, blessings to you. Wish me luck as I'm trying to figure out how to add the card to this. And I hope to see you next week. I'm really excited about next week. It's grocery shopping and meal planning. And I'm going to share with you my little grocery shopping meal planning that I do. So I'm very excited to share that with you. Blessings and have a wonderful week.